Today we're taking time to stop and reflect and remember the life of Pamela Jean Henshaw. We can call this gathering many things, and you can call it whatever you're comfortable with. A celebration of life, a memorial service, or even a funeral. At its core, what we're doing is a ritual that we as humans need. We have this instinct to celebrate certain events. We celebrate when somebody is born. We celebrate when people are married. And we mark the occasion of somebody's death by celebrating their life. It's a chance to say goodbye and to honor a life that was lived, which, at its core, is what funerals really are. Today we come together with a common interest, a common friend, Pam. Everyone here today is feeling this loss, and that's okay. And it's okay because we have this time together to cry, to remember, to share love and support with one another, and to be there for each other just as Pam would want it to be. What we're doing today is something that is so necessary for us to also be able to cope, heal, and begin the process of moving forward. Today we're setting the groundwork for tomorrow, when we'll get up and carry on without Pam, but we can do it because that's what she would want us to do. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Henry Johnston, and I'm the town undertaker. And as an undertaker, this may come as a surprise to many of you, might not. I spend a lot of my time in cemeteries. And it's okay to chuckle at that. And what I found in cemeteries as we look around is one common theme. Headstones, grave markers, monuments, whatever you want to call them, they bear the names of those who have gone before us. But in addition to those names, there are also two dates. The date that somebody was born and the date that somebody passed away. But between those two dates is either a little space or a line, a dash, whatever you want to call it, that represents the entire lifespan, whether it was 1 minute or 100 years of when a person lived. So for a little bit this afternoon, let's look what happened within the space of Pam's dash. January 30th, 1946 was a Wednesday. Harry S. Truman was President of the United States, and it was the day that the dime that we know today, bearing the likeness of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, was first issued to the public. I'm Always Chasing Rainbows by Harry James and his orchestra was #1 on the radio charts, and The Black Rose by Thomas Costin was #1 of the New York Times bestseller list. But to those of us here today, January 30th, 1946 is the day that Pamela Jean Oakes was born in Spokane, Washington, to Arnold Robert and Helen Catherine Sarsfield Oakes. She was raised in Spokane during the school year and spent her summers on the family farm located between St. John and Endicott. Beautiful area over there. I used to live over there. It's great. Her father, Arnold, was a teacher and her mother a homemaker, and both instilled in Pam the value of a hard day's work, something she passed on to her children and grandchildren. While in high school, Pam played the saxophone, and she also taught herself, without lessons, taught herself to play the piano. She graduated from John R. Rogers High School in 1964 and attended business courses at Spokane Community College, where she was an honors student. And she was recruited by Key Bank after her time in college as a data processor. And of course, this was back in the days when data processing required knowledge of computers, and not the computers like we carry in everybody carries in your pocket today. These things were big, just giant banks of electronics. And she managed to learn and became proficient at that so much, the bank moved her to Seattle, and then being impressed with her skills and her work ethic, transferred her to Key Bank's Elum branch. And that's where things got fun. It was while she was working in Elum that Pam was introduced after work and over a drink at Cavallini's to Bernie Henshaw, the bartender there. The two hit it off and were married on October 27th, 1973 in Elum. Pam continued to work for Key Bank until 1976 when son Brad was born. And then she and Bernie got into business for themselves. They opened Henshaw's Nursery and Irrigation, a business they owned and operated together for over 30 years. Now, Pam was in charge of the nursery and Bernie was in charge of the irrigation side, and Pam knew how to run a greenhouse. No, move those over there. That's too much sun. No, those got to be in the shade. Get them over there. And many folks in town who had quit smoking also knew they could swing by and bum a smoke from Pam, stand out back and visit. She'd play lookout for them so they wouldn't get caught. She also owned and operated a travel agency for a time, which opened up many travel opportunities for her and Bernie to travel, including many Caribbean cruises. Now, there was one cruise in particular that could have been dubbed the Elum cruise. Over 40 couples from Elum alone on the same ship, all having been sold their trip by Pam, which I found out made the trip complimentary for her and Bernie. Now, she was a hard worker. She never slowed down from the time she got up in the morning to the time she went to bed, and she expected the same from those around her. Entertaining was one of Pam's favorite things. Easter, of course, being the biggest holiday, followed by Christmas, where Pam would prepare for weeks in advance for the house to be packed with family and friends. But even if it wasn't a holiday, she always opened her home and her heart to those who needed her. Oh, and you never left Pam and Bernie's house hungry. She just wouldn't allow for it, whether it was her Bossellini, mashed potatoes, eclairs, basically anything that was either deep fried or sugar loaded. Even if you were stuffed full, oh come on, just have one more scoop of potatoes. You just need a little bit more. Her grandkids always remember that she had cookies and other sugar-filled treats for them, and that was kind of her motto: load the grandkids up with sugar before sending them back home to mom and dad. But it wasn't just her grandkids that looked forward to her baked goods. Every St. Patrick's Day, raise your hand if you remember Pam's Blarney Stones. Angel food cake, frosting, nuts, and they developed quite a following. She'd make a ton and take them to folks around town. Now, she rarely missed her morning coffee group with the girls and enjoyed being a caregiver and making sure those around her were cared for. Pam always saw the good in people, unless, of course, you were lazy or a Democrat. She was very opinionated and at the same time had a great sense of humor. And of course, no eulogy about Pam would be complete without mentioning her absolute love for her family, including her dogs, who enjoyed many a holiday meal with the family, Pam, of course, sneaking them food under the table. She was a remarkable woman who made such an impact on her family, her friends, and her community, and her presence in our daily lives will be terribly, terribly missed. And just as important of a date as January 30th, 1946 says to those of us here today, so is September 7th, 2020. It was a Monday, Labor Day to be exact. Donald Trump was President of the United States. Thick as Thieves by Sandra Brown was at the top of the New York Times bestseller list. And Lovin' on You by Luke Combs was at the top of the country radio charts. But to those of us here today, September 7th, 2020 is the day that Pamela Jean Henshaw slipped the surly bonds of earth to go play Yahtzee, smoke cigarettes, and drink Pepsi in the great beyond, whatever each of us believe that to be. We can all rest assured, however, that Pam would be incredibly upset with the timing of her transition to the next world, as it happened before Election Day, thus depriving her of the satisfaction of voting for someone, anyone, other than Jay Inslee. Pam is survived by her husband Bernie at the family home in Elum, sons Craig and his wife Diane of Everett, son Brad and his wife Annette of Elum, 8 grandchildren, sisters Tamara of St. John and Linda and her husband Keith of Fairbanks, Alaska, and brother Robert Oakes of Endicott. She was preceded in death by her parents as well as her sister, Gwendolyn Garrett. As I mentioned before, this service is a time of remembering and a time of healing. But that won't stop when we're done here today, because as humans, we have this gift called memory. And as long as you continue to share memories of Pam and laugh, oh, do you remember the time Pam did? Oh yeah, I remember that. Remember when Grandma? Oh yeah. Keep those stories alive within our hearts and minds, and our conversation shall never be too far away. In other words, and this is a participation exercise, at the rising of the sun and at its going down, repeat after me, we will remember her. At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember her. At the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember her. At the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer, we will remember her. At the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember her. At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember her. When we're lost and sick at heart, we will remember her. For as long as we live, she too will live, for she is now a part of us as we remember her. Before we depart today, I want to share a final thought with you. Each of us have fingerprints that are unique to each of us. When we touch things, we leave our prints behind. Pam touched each of your lives and has forever left her thumbprint on your heart. And so before you go today, we're going to lift the cover off the urn ark. And I would encourage everybody before you go today to step forward and just leave your thumbprint with Pam. That concludes today's service. On behalf of the family, we wish to convey their sincere appreciation for your many kindnesses, evidenced both in thought and deed, and for your attendance at this service. You may retire at your leisure.